anybody else notice that every August, right before school starts, the drama suddenly ramps up? Everything was relatively quiet over the summer, and then just days before school starts, your phone starts blowing up. I don't agree with this school. I never approved this. I'm not signing anything. I'm keeping the backpack. I changed my mind. If you're sitting there wondering, why does this happen every single year? Let me tell you something. This usually isn't about school. It's about control. And today we're talking about 5 ways an abuser tries to hijack the school year. An abusive ex understands that back to school season is stressful enough. Parents are juggling transportation, registration, supply list, extracurricular activities, and new routines. If someone wants to create chaos, August gives them countless opportunities. I'm Tiffany Lesnik, domestic violence attorney, domestic violence survivor, and founder of Live Free Legal. Every week, I help women navigate family court with wisdom, strategy, and confidence. If you're new here, make sure you like this video and subscribe. My goal is to help you understand not just what the law says, but why abusive people do what they do, and how you can respond in a way that protects both you and your children. Maybe you've even taken time off work for Meet the Teacher. Then 3 days before school starts, your ex suddenly announces, I don't agree. Where was that concern 6 weeks ago? This is one of the most common forms of coercive control that I see. The goal often isn't to have a meaningful conversation about education. The goal is to create a crisis. They always wait to the last minute. When someone waits until the very last minute, they're hoping you'll panic. They're hoping you'll react emotionally. They're hoping you'll abandon your plan just to make the conflict stop, and they will get their way. Here's what I tell my clients. Don't let someone else's emergency become your emergency. If your custody order requires joint decision-making, begin the conversation weeks in advance. Send your proposals in writing, keep copies, follow up if necessary, and give deadlines, right? It's okay to say, I haven't heard from you. Our child needs to be registered for school. I've registered him for school. If I don't hear from you by this date, I'll assume that you're okay with this decision, or I'll assume that you're okay with this registration. By documenting your efforts easily, you're building credibility if the issue ever ends up in court. The court's usually going to side with the parent that's doing the right thing for your child, right? So just always keep your decisions child-focused and not abuser-focused. If you're really having problems getting decisions made, make sure you're very proactive so that you can seek the advice or intervention of an attorney if you need to, because you may need to file a motion with the court to have a school decision made or have some other type of decision made by a judge way in advance of the school season starting. You may even have the ability to file and ask for a parenting coordinator to be appointed. If a parenting coordinator is appointed, they can make the final decision on where your child will go to school, how your child will be enrolled, those types of things. So let's talk about number 2, refusing to sign enrollment paperwork. This one catches a lot of parents off guard. The school tells you they need a signature, your ex refuses, now what? First, don't assume the school knows your custody order. Registrars are trying to enroll hundreds of students. They aren't family law attorneys. If your order gives you final educational decision-making authority, provide the school with a copy of that order. If your order requires both parents' agreement, find out exactly what documentation the school needs and what options exist if one parent is refusing to cooperate. The key, again, is not to wait until the day before classes begin or even weeks before. You need to be well prepared ahead of time. Call the school early, ask questions. Understand the process. Preparation can prevent a problem from becoming a crisis. And if you need to, you can always file a motion with the court for school determination. If you cannot agree or he's refusing to sign paperwork, refusing to enroll your child in school, or your child where you want your child to go to school, right? It's very common that they want to use their base school or the school in their neighborhood as the primary school for your child. So be prepared in advance and be proactive just in case you do need to file that motion. So, number 3, refusing to enroll your child at all. This one scares parents, and understandably so. Sometimes an abusive parent simply refuses to cooperate with enrollment. They won't provide the child's birth certificate, they won't hand over immunization records, they refuse to sign paperwork, or they insist the child isn't going to that school without offering any realistic alternative. Again, this is rarely about education, it's about power and control. If this happens, don't assume there's nothing you can do. Start by contacting the school and asking exactly what is preventing enrollment. Review your custody order to understand who has decision-making authority, and review policies and procedures of your particular school district. It might be that the parent with primary custody is considered the residential parent, and maybe you can enroll your child in that school district based upon your address. So do look at the policies and procedures of your school district, and you may be able just to use those policies and procedures to your advantage. Again, document every attempt you've made to resolve the issue with your abusive ex. And if the problem can't be resolved quickly and school is about to begin, contact your attorney right away to discuss your legal options. You may be able to file a motion to preserve the status quo or some type of an emergency motion in order to get your child enrolled in school. Children going to school is not optional, right? It's compulsory in most states. It's required. They have to attend school in some way. So most importantly, don't wait until the first day of school. The sooner you act, the more options you generally have. Don't generally recommend that moms call Child Protective Services or DHHS, but because school enrollment is mandatory and children attending school is mandatory, or some substitution for school is mandatory, if he is absolutely refusing to enroll the children and will not cooperate at all, and you can't get into court fast enough to get a ruling on that, a potential alternative, it would be to contact Department of Health and Human Services or Child Protective Services to see if you can get them involved and then force his hand. Again, last resort, but a possibility if you have no other means to get your children enrolled in school. Okay, so number 4, secretly enrolling your child somewhere else. They're going to do things behind your back, so just expect that. But imagine getting a phone call from another parent asking why your child isn't at school today, only to discover your ex enrolled them somewhere else without telling you. It happens. I've seen it happen. I've actually had a case where my client took her children to school during her weeks at school A, and then abuser would take the children to school B during his weeks. Now, we did get that situation resolved through court. The judge wasn't happy about it, but he was willing to put his children in the middle of that kind of chaos. They weren't going to school with their same set of friends. They were having to try to pick up different types of homework, different types of lessons. Just not a good environment for children, but they don't care. They are their primary focus. They are numero uno, not the children. And they are willing to put their children in the middle of a chaotic situation that's going to cause anxiety, conflict, and pain for their children just so they can get their way. Understand that. That's the mind of an abuser. So sometimes with abusers, it might be a different public school. Sometimes it's a charter school. Sometimes it's a private school. And sometimes the other parent suddenly announces they're going to homeschool. or they insist on homeschooling, or they insist that you homeschool. Changing a child's school can have significant legal consequences. And the answer isn't the same in every case. It depends on your custody order and the laws in your state. The important thing is this: don't assume your ex has the authority to make that decision unilaterally. But don't assume they don't either. Again, read your court order carefully and seek legal advice if you believe an unauthorized school change has occurred. If you cannot get into court until after the school year has started, it is always better, I think, to err on the side of caution. Your children need to be enrolled in school. So you can always have them enrolled and then petition the court for a change in that enrollment, and then give them good reasons why your children should be changed to a different school. Maybe there are safety reasons. Maybe it's a safer neighborhood. Maybe there are better teachers. Maybe there's better programming. Maybe the standardized scores are better in that particular school. Maybe there's a particular program, maybe their IEP program is better. Your children have particularized needs that make this school stand out more than the school that the abusive ex has enrolled them at. You don't want to play games with the abuser and withhold your children going to school, because then it puts you on an even playing field with him, and we don't want you looking as bad as he does, right? It's better to have your children enrolled and then deal with the consequences later through the court system. Do the right thing. Make sure your children are receiving an education and you're not playing games with them because of his choices. Okay, so number 5, holding school supplies hostage. So this may sound petty until it happens to your child. The backpack stays at dad's house, the Chromebook never comes back, the calculator disappears, the soccer cleats don't make it to practice, the medication is forgotten. These aren't just inconveniences, they create stress for your child and can leave you scrambling to replace items at the last minute and on your dime. I don't know how many times I've had abusive exes even refuse to pay for school supplies, or go out to one of the most expensive stores and spend a ridiculous amount of money on school supplies and then demand that you reimburse them for those supplies. So whenever possible, keep duplicate essentials at your home. If expensive items need to travel back and forth, document what was sent and when. Sometimes a simple photo before an exchange can prevent later disputes about whether an item was returned. And then if you have older children, or you've got children in the upper elementary school ages, middle school or high school, they can also be responsible for ensuring that their items get transferred back and forth, right? As parents, we don't always have to be completely responsible for our children's belongings. As they get older, they need to learn some responsibility for ensuring that their soccer uniform, that their tablet, things that they need for school, that they're accountable for making sure those things get back and forth. Those are just survival skills. You're teaching them how to be responsible young adults. So if you recognize some of these tactics, I want you to hear this. You're not overreacting, and you're certainly not alone. So many women go through this every summer, every August right before the school year starts. These situations can make you feel like you're constantly putting out fires, but the more you anticipate the patterns, the better prepared you'll be to respond calmly and strategically. Next week, we're covering 5 more back-to-school ambushes, including what happens when your ex starts drama at school, contacts teachers behind your back, makes false allegations, or uses your child as a messenger. We'll also talk about practical steps you can take to protect both your child and your credibility if these situations arise. If this video helped you, please, hey, do me a favor. Like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another mom who may be facing the same challenges. And if you're looking for practical tools, checklists, and legal education designed specifically for survivors navigating family court, I invite you to join us at livefreelegal.com. Remember, Preparation is power, documentation builds credibility, and you don't have to navigate this journey alone. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at YouTube at Live Free Legal. See you next time.